Welcome to Learning to Glow, a show about wellness, skin health, and self-development. I'm your host, Jess. I'm a mom, entrepreneur, and skincare expert. I'm so excited to share tips on how to achieve healthy skin and bring amazing guests in the field of health, fitness, aging gracefully, and personal growth. Let's explore all different ways we can take care of ourselves as women, both inside and out, to truly shine. So let's get glowing. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Learning to Glow podcast. Today, we have a great episode with Dr. Ginny, who is the author of the book Slender for Good After 50, Eat More, Stress Less, and Never Diet Again. She is a psychologist and a certified health coach who did this research to find evidence-based answers to her own eating and weight issues. And now she shares her information and how she has been so successful at this with her clients. She has uncovered key principles from science for how to actually nourish the body so that you can actually release the excess weight. We had such a great conversation. I absolutely love this episode. We talked about losing weight in your 40s and beyond and some of the challenges that we face as women in this time in life. She also shared her knowledge of how alcohol can play a role in all of this, how she and her clients were able to eliminate sugar cravings, and I just really enjoyed talking to Dr. Ginny. And I love how she uses her background as a psychologist to help her clients learn how to lose weight without dieting. It's such a great pairing. And you can find all of her information in the show notes. I will link her website. I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did. And here's Dr. Ginny. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show today. We have a special guest with us, Dr. Ginny, and I'm going to make you say your last name because
I say Trierweiler.
Okay, that's not as scary as I thought. I have a very long last name too, so I don't want to butcher yours. So thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. Look how glowy you are.
Thank you. Well, I sell skincare, so I hope that's one thing I try to do is glow a little bit. You are a board certified coach and an author. I would love if you could tell us a little bit about you and what you do, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. Well, I help women mostly over 40 and 50 who really want to figure out how to make healthy eating habits stick so they can live slender for good and never have to diet again, because it's ridiculous to spend our lives dieting.
It's what a waste. It's such a waste of energy. And
Yes.
It's tough because I think a lot of times, a lot of women and that I talked to, and people who have helped women with this issue on my podcast have said, a lot of people can go until they get to 40 and it's pretty easy. And then all of a sudden, things change and a lot of times everything changes.
Yes, everything changed. Nothing worked anymore.
Yeah.
And I feel like I was pretty arrogant and thought it would always work. Like I was always slender, and I don't know what those overweight women are doing. They must be eating so much food. And it just all changed when perimenopause hit. And I was like, oh. I did try for at least 10 years to keep doing the things that used to work.
Oh, okay. Well, tell us a little bit about your story then, and like how you got into this.
Yeah. So I do remember like graduate school, donuts and coffee for breakfast, but I would work out and I just felt like I had it all figured out. I just stayed slender. And then I had this kind of precipitous fall into menopause because I had been doing fertility treatments. So like 43, I hit menopause and hot flashes and weight gain and insomnia, and I had pain and inflammation in my back and my feet since like high school. And that was getting worse and worse and worse, taking more and more medications. By the time I was 55, it was scary how bad it had gotten. Like I could barely go for a walk anymore. I had so much inflammation in my feet. And I had this big wake up call because I just kept trying what used to work and wasn't working anymore, which I have clients tell me all the time. And I'm a psychologist by background and training. I started working in nursing homes, and all my patients were saying, you got to get me out of here. My kids, I've taken my car, they're taking my house, find a way to get me out of here. I don't belong here. And I started researching their conditions, and I found that they were never getting out of there again. That's where they were staying the rest of their lives. and they were never going to get better. And it was mostly related to their eating and drinking more than anything else. And I felt really scared because I was in love with the way I was eating and drinking. And I kept believing I had it figured out because it used to work. And I just started realizing, you know what? You don't have it figured out and you can barely walk. And now you're pre-diabetic and you're going to have to change something. And I was scared. And I didn't find anybody in the marketplace who I trusted to lead me because they all had magic pills and stuff like that. And I thought, no, that doesn't make any sense. I'm going to have to figure out how to eat healthy. And at first I was crying, like, oh, it's going to suck, because I love the way I eat and drink. I was drinking a bottle of wine every night. And, I had just gotten into this position where it wasn't going to go well anymore. Once I did start finding the answers, because I have this background in evidence-based practices, I found 4 principles that consistently added up to results. Once I started eating that way, things started changing and it didn't suck. It was, if you don't mind me using such language.
Yeah. Like that's how it has to be though, right? If it's restrictive and it sucks, like you said,
yeah.
How do you maintain that? It's unsustainable. Right. So maybe you could start with, there's so many things I want to ask you, but maybe we should start with, what did you start with? So you're, beginning this change and you're realizing you want to make a change. And you said you had 4 things that you started to see results.
Right.
Maybe you could share some of those with us.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I kept finding you have to eat more nutritious foods. And I thought, that's not what they've been telling us. They've been telling us to eat less. And this is kind of scary. And plus, if I eat that many vegetables, how will I have room for my potato chips and my chocolate and my wine? And so I kind of resisted what I was finding. But then I thought, you know what? The research says this over and over. You're going to have to eat more of these things. What if you find a way to enjoy them? So that really was the first priority. And I always tell people, if you never hear anything else from me, start eating a lot more nutritious foods. Not the ones the food industry tells you are nutritious, but they're packaged and they're processed, but the things that are unequivocally real, whole, nutritious foods. Yeah, that started changing things for me. I started getting more energy. My skin started looking better. I don't know. I'd love to hear your thought about this, but what I see with my clients is they start looking more alive in the face.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, from the beginning of my career in skincare, I was taught that one of the brands that I worked for taught me that what we put in our bodies matters on the outside. So I didn't know, that was my first taste of it. We didn't get too deep into that, but as I got older, I realized that, you can tell if if they're not eating great food and they're not going to the bathroom regularly, or they're not drinking enough water, or they're over drinking, which I want to talk about that today. That you can see it. You can see it on the skin, and it's and if it gets worse, and if your health gets worse, then it could even get to that next level where you're having rashes, you have eczema, you have psoriasis. So it's definitely something that I've seen throughout my career for sure. And when people do start to make a change, you can see it in the skin and people notice.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's skin, it's eyes, it's all kinds of things that start looking healthier. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And they start looking more slender too. But it's not just that. It's not just that slender looks better than, I don't know, than round maybe.
Yeah, I think like you said, it's you have a more vitality in your skin and just the quality of what your skin looks like improves. Maybe we could start I want to talk about this. You are a certified trainer in This Naked Mind. I want to talk about that really quick because that is a book that changed my life. I read that book it's by Annie Grace. I'll link it in the show notes for anyone who hasn't read it. But I had never read a book that talked about the way alcohol affects our bodies in a scientific way, right? Of course, most of my life, I was always told a glass of red wine is very great for you. It's great for your heart. It's great for your, the antioxidants. Obviously we knew too much alcohol, not great.
Right.
But it wasn't until I read that book that I sort of realized, well, this can be really dangerous. for our health.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's so much more harmful than we've been taught. So,
Yes.
and especially like, oh my goodness, talk about weight loss and fat loss when
Yes.
you're drinking a bottle of wine like you were doing. So tell us like a little bit of why, and is this something that you stopped doing right away as far as drinking your bottle of wine a night? I'd love to start with, just maybe your experience with the alcohol, and then maybe you
Yeah.
could share some reasons why it's not a great idea when you're on a fat loss journey or a health journey.
Oh yeah, alcohol is so bad for fat loss. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I discovered is when you're drinking alcohol, your body makes that a priority. That is toxic. Your body knows it right away. It doesn't matter what all the advertisements tell you about how it's not actually toxic. It is. It's toxic, and your body knows it. And your body like puts down every other priority, fighting cancer, for example, right? All the kinds of healing our bodies can do, but also fat loss. Like, so our body stops doing any kind of fat loss and it starts storing fat. Every bit of food we eat starts going to fat storage because our body is coping with the alcohol as far as getting the toxins out of our system. And it takes quite a long time to get the toxins out of our system, right? So it can be the whole next day where our body is still fighting that. And for me, it was a bottle of wine every night. And then it was a bottle of wine plus a little, right? Because it's addictive. And most people are going to end up having a little more and a little more. And it is affecting our health. Yeah. Now, for me, I was very glad to find Annie Grace because I knew that's something I needed to change as I dug into the research. But I didn't know how. Like it felt embarrassing. I was not going to be someone who would go to AA. Every time I tried to cut back, I just wanted to drink more, right? So finding Annie Grace was just such a saver, such a lifesaver for me. I ended up coaching 4 years in her program. So I've worked with hundreds of people, especially women in my age group, who are saying, oh, I really kind of love my wine, but I really think it's not serving me anymore as far as my health and my future go. So
Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah. And I mean, when you were going through the program for yourself, how did that go for you? Because I don't know about her program, but I know the book. I know that if you are someone who cares about your health and you read some of the facts about the repercussions of alcohol, which I'm very into health. And so for me, that was like such a light bulb when I read that book.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people who are on that journey, especially I think so many people who are a little bit older in their 40s and 50s are like, okay, I can't drink like I used to. It affects me so much more. I feel so much worse, the day after, things like that. But they don't have like a serious, what you think of as an alcoholic type of problem where they would need treatment and all those things. So it's like they're like stuck in the middle. I feel like she's such a good person for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, why would we wait until we're living under a bridge, right? So I think most of us are in that. I think I maybe drink a little more than I want to drink, but I don't really want to quit. I think that's where most of us have been. So she's a big help for that. I didn't go through her program. I read her book. And at the same time, I was studying how to get healthy weight loss and how to reverse prediabetes and those things. So if I hadn't found her book, I wouldn't have known how to quit drinking. But for me, it all came together like I need to eat and drink healthfully or I'm going to suffer the consequences. And by age 55, I imagined I'd be in a nursing home in the next 10 years. Like I couldn't walk. I was already pre-diabetic. That's why I got so scared that I'm going to change this no matter what. But I coached in her program. So she has like a 12-month program that helps people just kind of get the reinforcement day after day after day of why you would want to live maybe without alcohol in your life. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I love that. And she's just like so great at telling us, for example, maybe you could share some, I can't think of too many off the top of my head, but like the fact that the cancer rates for people who drink are so much higher. And it's like, it doesn't even have to be like a heavy drinker.
Right. Even moderate drinkers are at much increased risk of cancer. Actually, my mom died a few years ago of lung cancer. She had quit smoking 30 years before, but she was drinking a bottle of wine a night, right? And I feel like that interfered with her ability to fight cancer. So I've been studying, how does sugar, how does alcohol, how do these things affect, our risk of diabetes? Why do we have so much greater risk of diabetes, so much greater risk of heart disease, so much greater risk of dementia and cancer? Like, cancer was a puzzle to me, but now I understand our body needs to be fighting cancer every day. And if we're putting toxins in there, that's getting in the way of our cancer fighting abilities. Actually, we find there's like 8 different cellular metabolism functions that get damaged by sugar and alcohol. Our bodies need to not be dealing with that stuff all the time. It's not going to go well for us.
So when you started adding more nutritious food into your diet, because you mentioned sugar a few times, was that something that you also started paying more attention to? Because that's more of a hot topic these days, sugar.
Yeah, there's huge research proving it's really destructive to our systems, but we all have grown up being given it as a reward. And then when we could afford to, we started giving it to ourselves as a reward, right? And then I started saying, well, not so much dessert, but I'll take another cocktail, right? Similar kind of process. Like, these are all things that are damaging to our cells. And so I don't know if you know this research, but research shows that 73% of our diet now, of our food, is highly processed, what I call non-nutritious food-like substances. So that is now most of our food. So we really have to start bulking up on the really nutritious foods to back out of that really bad situation we're in, where most of us now, more than half of us, can expect to spend the last 10 years of our lives sick with one of these chronic diseases related to diet.
Yeah. Oh, so, and this is always a good follow-up question with the sugar topic. Yeah. What do you do, and what do your clients do with the cravings? Because that's very addictive. And I know in my experience, the more I've kind of had sugar in my diet, in my everyday, the more I want, the more my cravings are.
Yes, it's so true. Yeah. Well, just like with alcohol, for me, putting it off the table for a while made those cravings go away. Same thing with sugar. Just saying, you know what, for a year, I don't have to eat those things. It sounds terrifying to people, right? That's a sign that we're addicted.
Yeah. So how do you deal with the craving? So if you're like, okay,
stop if you abstain. The cravings stop quite quickly if you abstain. What people find is like, oh, I quit drinking alcohol, but now I'm eating more sugar. Like, we have to abstain from all the things that cause cravings in order to get a break from the cravings. And then once we've had that break and we're feeling like my clients tell me all the time, I just feel so good. I don't have any cravings. I don't have any hunger. I don't have any of the experiences I had when I was dieting, when I was trying to moderate these things. So I know it sounds really scary to people, but it actually ends up being a million times easier. This is something I knew as a psychologist. You're trying to moderate something that's addictive. That's going to keep you in cravings. It's an intermittent reinforcement situation where, ooh, now is it time? Is it my day? Is it my day I can have the thing? That's just a way to keep those going. Am I sounding terrifying?
No. I mean, I've actually had this experience where I, said I'm not going to do any sugar. In the last couple of months, I really don't have much sugar. I have a lot of, I have fruit, but I don't have a lot of sugar. And I used to be kind of a nightly chocolate person. I would have, it wouldn't be a lot, but like, I love dark chocolate. I'd have dark chocolate, but it was a strong craving. It would be like a strong craving after dinner. And I decided, like, in, the end of September, I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to really focus on my sugar and like, see what I can do here. And it's true. Like, I definitely feel less, like, I don't have that strong craving like I did every night. And I didn't look at it like I'm never gonna do sugar or I'm gonna have zero sugar, but I just stopped craving it, which was like, that's huge.
It's huge. We have a crave the good process in my program where we're really trying to shift our cravings from things that are not good for us to things that are good for us. Like the foods that are actually healthy, like I could barely walk and then I was able to hike again. I had 60 excess pounds and then those were gone. I couldn't sleep well and then I could sleep fine. Like when you get those kinds of transformative benefits, you start thinking, well, maybe I don't have to bring that back. Maybe if I do bring it back, I'll do it quite carefully and quite observantly rather than just go, oh, well, okay, let's go back to the old ways now.
It's so amazing how our bodies are. Like when you think about all of the things that you were dealing with and then you switched your diet. When you have such a result like that and you can put like this food equals this result, like that's so amazing.
It's powerful.
It is. Yeah. It like makes it stick. So when you have clients and you're working with them in the beginning, what would you say are some of their biggest challenges?
I mean, in a lot of ways, it's attachments. We grew up very attached to sweet things. Like when I think about a friend whose family member is sick, I kind of want to take them pastries, but I kind of don't because they are all pre-diabetic in this family. Like maybe that's not what I want to do, but that means now I'm in this position of needing to figure out, well, what can I do since that's what I've always been used to doing. So it's a lot more like becoming aware, like this matters and I'm going to care about this and I'm going to do something different in this situation. A lot of it is mindset, right? That's one of the reasons I felt like, okay, people don't know what to eat and I can guide them on that. But beyond that, they don't know how to change their eating habits for good. Like they're used to dieting and then going back to the old ways and then gaining the weight back. And that's terrible. I don't want anyone in that situation. Well, I know how habit change works. Like we can make these habits really happy, really enjoyable habits that we don't have any reason to have to throw away. So that's one thing my clients tell me. I'm not hungry. I love my weight. I love the way I eat. I'm proud of myself. I don't have to ever go back to the old ways. Like this is how I eat.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And this is what we know from so much experience is that it's got to be a shift mentally. It's a mindset shift. It's really like, this isn't just for a short term. This is our life. Like this is our lifestyle. This is what we do. Yes. And I feel like that is everything that it goes against everything we've been taught. It's like the diet is for an event or for summer and then you can go back, but then you're going to go back in every way.
Yeah.
And I think how is being a therapist, I can see this like being a psychologist and doing this work with your clients is such a gift because this is so mental, it's not just a diet plan and, just don't do this. Like it's so much more deep than that.
Yeah. Well, and what I realized at some point, I used to work with people just one-on-one, but now we have small, intimate groups. And so somebody's just overcome something somebody else just is facing right now. They just really help each other because they kind of look at me like, well, yeah, it's easy for you because you've been doing this for a long time. But they look at the person who's 2 months ahead of them and go, oh, maybe I can get there. Right. It's inspiring.
Yeah. I know for sure. I think that's what's so good about a group and that group support. You're not alone. Like obviously, a lot of other people are going through this same thing. So, what are some? And I know you work with people, who may be just used to total standard American diet, very ultra processed things. What are some of your like basic nutrition tips to start out with for them? So it's like not so overwhelming because it is confusing. A lot of people get confused. There's so much info out there.
I mean, part of what I say is there's truly healthy eating and there's what we learned, and they're very different from each other. So even those of us who are smart and we're well read and we read articles and stuff, we're very far from understanding what truly healthy eating is. So I mean, that's part of what I teach in my program is you need a really clear set of guidelines that are simple and make sense and you could follow the rest of your lives. And then you need that to translate into quantities of proteins and fats and fruits and vegetables, et cetera, because otherwise we are mixing too much misinformation into what we're doing and we're not going to ever get the results. So as someone who's studied evidence-based practices a lot, you want to follow the plan that actually leads to results and just do that. So I don't know if that's helpful for people to hear, but trying to piece together from the information in our marketplace, it's very, very hard to come up with good answers. But what I say sometimes is look for whole, unequivocally healthy, nutritious foods. So when you talk about fruit, that is healthy food. As soon as you break it down and process it into juice, smoothies, dried fruit, you just concentrated the sugars and took away so much of the nutrition. So when we eat a piece of fruit and we have to chew it, and then our gut has to digest all that fiber, that's how we get the nutrition out of that food. As soon as we make it highly palatable, like we break it down somehow, we just took most of the nutrition away and concentrated the sugars and made it more convenient, which our brain says, awesome, this is quick calories. I love that. No, our brain is wrong. Like that is what was good for us thousands of years ago when everything was food. Now that most of what's in our environment is food-like substances, we're in trouble if we follow that kind of intuition.
Yeah, it does. And I love what you said about keeping it simple and focused because of all the noise out there. I saw a video on ways to lose weight, and this woman she has an amazing background, very credentialed trainer, nutritionist, but she was saying things like, you can't lose weight unless you don't have, and she mentioned a few foods. And I'm like, well, people watching that are going to be like, oh, okay, I can't eat that food. But really, that's not true. So it's
Right.
like, if you're on social media, I think it's very challenging because people want to share a bunch of things. They're not always true. And it just makes you so much more confused. And then then if you're trying like, okay, I'm going to do what this lady said, and then I got to make this drink in the morning. And then this person says, don't drink that in the morning. It's so overwhelming for people, especially if you're starting off brand new too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think about this idea of, I was kind of looking for the latest tip every day, almost with this feeling like if I get the latest tip, it'll probably answer everything. It'll fix everything. Like it was this constant searching. And I started realizing that doesn't work in evidence-based practices. You need a handful of principles that make sense that you can follow day in and day out every day. Not what's the latest tip today. That doesn't predict results ever.
Yeah. And then it's telling you that there's this one magic bullet and that goes back to like the diet industry and all of the things, the magic pill and all of that, because it's really, and I've been so affected by it in my past. I've been like, oh my gosh, this is it. Like, this is the one thing. When it's really like much more boring than that, right? Like a lot of times.
Once I found all the answers, I was like, nobody's following this, but it's kind of common sense. So they're going to be like, oh, how boring. Yeah, it may not be sexy, the plan, but you get to be sexy when you follow it.
Yeah. And then also it's kind of a relief that there's not something that we're missing. It's going back to these basics that we know about. And what do you say to your clients about, I know this has been a huge topic and we've talked about it on my show, where women in midlife and older, they are really not eating enough protein. Is that something that you see is pretty common?
I don't. I always keep this question open and I keep an eye on the research about it. But from what I've seen, I don't think most of us are lacking in protein. I think we're lacking in fiber. We're not getting nearly enough fiber. So eating more fruits and vegetables is really important. We do need protein 3 times a day. I believe the big push for protein has more to do with the meat and dairy industry.
Okay.
Pushing that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll be proven wrong at some point. But what I've found is I don't push my clients to eat more protein than they've been eating. They need to eat more fruits and vegetables than they've been eating, mostly.
Right. Yeah. That makes so much sense. And what you said earlier about the food, as we take the fruit and then we process it and you break it down, like you're also taking the fiber out of it. Yes. So that's like another reason to eat the actual fruit and not
it really
juice
is,
it
It's so interesting. Our gut microbiomes are not super healthy in these times. And
Yeah.
so my inflammatory problems that were making it so I couldn't walk reversed when I changed my diet. So I don't know if you know that human body can't digest that kind of fiber that the fruit and vegetables come in, but the bacteria in our gut can. And that's how we get access to the nutrients in the food. So there's this whole process that needs to happen. It's not like, oh, well, I really want to drink my fruit and vegetables, so I'll take fiber on the side. No, like this whole idea is just a wrong idea. We need to eat food. Humans have always eaten real food. We're in trouble because we're not eating real food anymore.
Yeah. That's a good point about the fiber and the way that the gut works with it. I didn't know that. So how long did it take you when you started? Because here you had so many things go away. So many of your issues went away. How long did that take?
I don't know, because I was just trying to save my life and my future.
Yeah.
I actually did not document what I was doing. So I know with my clients, like I lost 60 pounds. So what we find is when we're eating this way, it's usually a pound or two a week.
Mm-hmm.
So that probably took me 30 to 60 weeks. I don't know exactly. Yeah.
I think that's another really important thing. And I've talked about this on the podcast too. Really setting your expectations, because again, like in diets and like in this culture that we have, it's like, okay, by the end of the next month, we're going to be at our goal weight. We're going to lose the fat. And it is not that fast. It takes time.
Right.
And
if you want it to last, it needs to be, if you want it to be sustainable, it needs to be a little bit gradual.
Right.
So your body can handle it and not freak out, right?
Yeah. And I think that's like something that I always thought that I'll have this off. Once I start this program, it's going to be a month, 21 days.
I know.
And I'll be skinny.
Right. I know. I had it. It's almost like, and I talk with my clients about this, like you join the program and you're like, am I there yet?
Yeah.
I should be there any minute. And it's not exactly like that. Although I've had people who only wanted to lose 5 or 10 pounds and it was pretty dang fast. Right. But I have other people who want to lose over 100 pounds and it's gradual. Like it's little by little by little. The thing is, once you start eating this way, you can see I could eat this way the rest of my life. There's no reason I have to change this. We do start adding some food when we get to our goal weight, but we do it thoughtfully and with intention. So we don't ever go back to eating the way we used to eat. It doesn't work for the human body. So why would we do that?
Yeah. And I think a lot of times when you start to, for me, the biggest thing that reinforces what I'm doing is the way I feel. If I feel better, I mean, that's even a better marker. Like you said, you mentioned sleep. If I'm sleeping better, if I'm having those results, that's more important to me than like the weight loss. And you know, that'll just keep you going, because it really does. You get impatient, I think, with this process.
Yeah. I think my clients do tell me a lot, like, okay, I'm really excited that I lost 50 pounds, but I don't know if I would keep going if it was only about the weight. I just feel like so much more energy, so much more vitality. So people start telling them, you look so different. And I know it's partly because their face looks so much more vital and healthy. It's not just that they look more slender.
Right. Yeah. It's deeper than that. So, I love this so much. I would love if you could share with us where people can find you and maybe more about what you do and how, if they want to work with you.
Yeah. Well, you can go to slenderforgood.com. That's my website. And there's usually some kind of free or easy to enter kind of program available. That's like right now, I'm getting ready to do a holiday program. How could we eat healthy even through the holidays? And some people are like, I don't even want to try to do that. Okay.
They're like, wait, January's right around the corner.
Yeah, I'll talk to you in January. So anyway, and I have like a video that's like under 5 minutes now where I'm able to explain really quick why dieting is not the answer. Because if people get nothing else from me, I really want you to stop dieting. It is hurting you. It is not serving your heart or your soul or your body, right? So yeah, that's the place. what I created is a 12-month program because I want people to be able to do this the rest of their lives. And it's not hard. People tell me really early, this isn't hard. This is actually easy. This is simple. It makes sense. I like this. But the whole world is going to try to pull you back to eating the way that people are eating, which is terrible. It's really deranged, I would say. So really being able to get these habits under you so that you're so confident, like this is just how I eat and I love it and nobody can change my mind. It takes a little bit of time. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's so important though, that it does take some time because you've been doing if you're working with women over 40 and 50s, how many decades have they been doing the same things over and over? So
Right.
it takes time to restructure that and change your mindset, and having your background, I'm sure, really helps with all that. So I really appreciate you coming on today. Thank you so much for being here.
So much. Thank you so much, Jess.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please subscribe and review so we can reach more people who want to learn to glow alongside us. See you next time.